Good evening, Sonder family. Welcome to tonight's social. I'm so glad to see you. And Denise has already shared, it has been a super hard day today. So, thanks for letting us know, Denise. We're glad that you joined us. If any of y'all are feeling the same way, remember that you're with your people and you can, dive in as much as you want, but you can also give yourself the space to just sit, maybe visit with folks. Some of us may have had great days. A lot of us may be like, oh, what day is it? Hump day. We still have 2 more days till the weekend. No matter where you are, we're glad that you are here right now. So, I'm Jennifer Ogilvy, and I live in the Dallas, Texas area. My town is called Garland, and I've been outside a little bit today. I'm kind of stuffy. We've got cedar fever going on in the area. It's always when that cedar pollen just gets ridiculous. And when I go outside, I get all stuffy. I'm on all the medicine, but I apologize if I'm sounding a little stuffy tonight. Joining me, my co-facilitator, who'll be hanging out in the chat with you, is Bailey Grady. She's home from work. She had you've lost your friend, Bailey. She's got her baby's just been, he's just been crawling and oh, look, we're gonna get to say hello. Look at that sweet, sweet fur baby. So, anyway, the two of us are here for you, and we're going to kind of take a look at this page 16, that reframing beliefs. And I hope that I have some things for you to think about as we tackle those spaces. We have an interesting opening activity this evening, and then we have that belief jar. And I'm just going to do like a quick little poll. Have y'all been working on the belief jar throughout the month? My gut was telling me that, yeah, the belief jar might have happened at the daily ritual. I'm going to talk about that. Um, but I feel like maybe some of you may have been like, yeah, I've been kind of writing things off, yeah, off and on all month. So if you've already been working on the jar and you're like it's kind of where you want it to be, that's okay. I have kind of an extension prompt idea to use that. So I'll encourage you to hang around so that, if it's empty, we'll sit together and kind of talk about our beliefs, what we've discovered this month. And if you've already been working on it, one big doodle. I love that, Gloria. But I have an extension activity, and in fact, the activity can stand alone. You don't even have to have had done your belief jar. So kind of have a lot of flexibility with this evening. I really wanted just to make it meaningful for y'all and set that up so that you can take what you need. Lots of music tonight, and just a reminder, make sure your chat is set to everyone. That's how we will be communicating with each other and supporting each other as we go along the way. Oh, Ronica, I love that. I filled mine up with all of my conflicting beliefs, and you put them into pairs, and it was a great learning opportunity. So you kind of did you do like the conflicting belief with what the more positive frame of mind around that? I love that. We talk a lot about duality when we're setting up things like our intentions, our goals. That's pretty cool. So y'all keep that in mind. If your belief jar is empty, that could be something that you sit with tonight. So Jennifer Wood said she's sort of newish. Is there anybody else here who's kind of newish? We would like to welcome you. Oh, your own needs versus your community needs, Radhika. Thank you. That's pretty neat take on that. Yeah, idealism and then reality. Ooh, boy, that's a good way to frame that one out. I appreciate you calling that out because we might revisit that. Someone might revisit that. And yeah, Sharon, for sure. Sometimes it's always nice to just talk these through. I don't know. I just tend to do better when I'm with everybody. So because we have this great community, and there are those guidelines that we share with you when we are together. Anytime we want to remind you, if you ever have a need for customer care, you can always reach out to hello@silkandsonder.com, especially if it has something to do with your subscription or something's missing in the mail or what, reach out. It's a great customer care team. And then finally, these socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being and decisions. So if it's a tough day, just maybe sit, watch, listen. This is being recorded. You'll be able to go back and look at it at a later time, maybe when your head is in the right space. There's never an expiration date on our journals. So, there may be pages that got left 2 or 3 months ago that you're still going to work on. But these are not a best by date kind of thing. You do it when you're ready and you're able to do it. So yes, belief. Belief has been a great theme this month. We've done a lot of deep digging. Beliefs really do align with those core values of who we are. We've explored in our weekly setups, kind of the origins of some beliefs, maybe what happened when some beliefs were shattered, and then sort of like how do we live our truth. So lots of deep digging this month. I know folks have said, that this theme's been a little tougher to dig into. Sometimes we have those things that resonate a little. They're not as gentle feeling as, say, something like a theme like play or, something with a little more whimsy to it. But yeah, you hear Larry the Cable Guy saying, I believe. Yeah, I love that. So we have an opening activity for y'all, and then we're going to break that reframing beliefs exercise down into steps. They say the best way to eat an elephant is a bite at a time. And so we're going to take this a bite at a time tonight. And then we're going to look at that belief jar. And again, if you have already filled your belief jar in, or you have lots of stuff in there, hang around because I have an extension activity using that content. So, to open up, we are going to be creating our own belief mandala. And I always share in the coloring socials, I love mandalas because they're like this universal symbol. We find them in nature all the time. Think of pine cones, seashells, the way flowers grow. And then there's just so much about circles and completeness. And if you came to the coloring social, we even talked about if you need to settle yourself, maybe you start coloring from the outside inward, or that there were some psyche things going on with how you approached coloring your mandala. I love mandalas. So tonight, though, you're going to be invited to create your own mandala. You start with a small circle. I have some examples to show you. And just think of a word or draw one symbol that sort of just captures one of your strongest core beliefs. Something that's really popped up for you this month, a learning that you've discovered along the way, something like worthiness or abundance, strength. And then a mandala builds outward. And so we'll think about drawing patterns and shapes or using colors to represent some of the things that you may do that will support your belief. You can also write words, like you can draw the shapes and add words to it. And you can even weave in some affirmations like I am or I can into the patterns of your mandala to solidify those beliefs. So, um, here are some just inspiration pieces if you want to get going with your own mandala. But I'm also going to show you a cheat. If you're like, it's been a hard day and I don't want to draw a mandala, I can't draw a stick person. I hear you, Sonia. I always have to look up how to draw a. So we have our coloring page this month. Whether you've colored it or not, this could also be a really great place to dig in, to think about that belief and all the ways you see it show up in your life. And these are some pages from Sonder Family. I did not do any of these. This is very fancy, but you could go to your coloring page if you want to work on this. And this example that's on the right, I shared it at the coloring social, but you can see it almost has that dream catcher feel to it. Like I could just see it hanging in the breeze blowing through it. And so perhaps you take your own coloring page and you kind of do these extra doodles like you see here. And you could write those statements about your belief along those beautiful patterns that you are creating. Someone else added stickers, someone else just extended that mandala. You can see this one above all those hearts is kind of a cone shape. Maybe those are where. Your belief word could be across the whole thing, and then you could write out those ways that you see it show up in your life. So, it's really up to you how you want to frame out this opening activity. The main thing is that we are really thinking about maybe something that's moved us as we have explored this idea of beliefs and turning it into this mandala. Little creative activity is always very good for our artistic selves. Remember, no one's picking this up. Nope, tonight's not coloring, Georgette. I was showing you an alternate way to approach creating your belief mandala. But you are welcome. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. You are welcome to create your own small mandala. So again, you can find a blank space, start with a circle, and then you just draw outward to create your mandala. Or you can use that page that's already there if you're just not feeling like having that artistic bug tonight. Just wanting to, let you choose what you need. And I'll go back and forth between these slides so you can read the directions and pull that from that. And yes, Jennifer Wood, great call out. The Life Workbook does also have a mandala in it. So I love taking the mandalas, and I usually will, in black ink put my word of the year across that. But maybe you take that and you find your a core belief that's been revealed to you this month. So you've already messed yours up, Adrian. It is okay. No one's picking this up. Go get your copy paper out of the computer printer and start over. Anyhow, so we're gonna kind of get going with that. And as you're share in the chat, Debbie saying, an example of someone's core belief, and then maybe pairing that with an affirmation. So if you've got some ideas that are coming up for you, we're just going to encourage you to drop all of those in the chat. And then let us know, are you being brave and you're going to do your own mandala, or are you going to kind of go piggyback on our coloring page? I'd love to know. Um, let's just take a deep breath as we all begin together. Okay, I'm proud of y'all for giving the mandalas a little try. And if you're comfortable sharing in Sonder Club, we'd love to see them. Or if you extended using the mandala that's on our coloring page, I'd love to see how you incorporated those thoughts about the belief that has shown up for you or the beliefs that have shown up for you this month. So keep doodling, keep writing. But we're going to go ahead and turn to page 16 as well and start working on that. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to kind of, take this one apart a little bit. Um, we've got these four kind of daunting questions. When you start digging into beliefs, it can feel a little overwhelming. So we're going to just break things down this evening. And I want to start with just this idea of looking at self-limiting beliefs because that they can really really guide our thoughts. And that's sort of been this journey this whole month about, what do we know is true? And then figuring out, oh, well, maybe that is not true about me, or I don't believe that. When I really stop to examine it. So I wanted to, yeah, it is so helpful, Debbie. So I wanted to just remind everybody has these self-limiting beliefs. We have that little voice in our head that's maybe telling us something, that's making us feel less than, or that we can't do something. We're human. They're there. They're the perceptions and thoughts that we have about ourselves and others and the world, and they're self-limiting because they prevent us from doing something that we really are capable of doing, even though we don't think we are. So that's where it gets tricky because we'll take these self-limiting beliefs and subconsciously turn them into facts. So I think it's real important that we just kind of talk about what they are before we start writing to them. We think that just because we think or feel something, it must be true. But it's a fallacy. We think thousands of thoughts a day and we ignore most of them, right? I mean, the brain's always going, but for some reason, we will cling to some of those self-limiting beliefs like they are our lifelines. So just wanted to sort of put that out there to remind us we're all in this boat together. So, our first box on this page is asking us to identify a limiting belief. That thing that we hear in our head that tells us that, this is true, but it's really not. The question on the prompt is, what is a belief you often think or say to yourself that feels discouraging or self-defeating? And so I will share a couple of links with you, or Bailey's got them to share with you at the end of our social on a couple of articles, or I looked up like positive psychology, psychology today, looked up some reference material. And when we look at that self-limiting belief, what we need to look for the pervasive thoughts, those things that are there. Again, we're clinging on to them like a lifeline, and the assumptions that show up repeatedly. And they said one of the articles said, red flags is if we say things to ourselves like, "Well, this is just how I am," or "I've always been this way," or "That's just how the world is." This is what always happens to me. What else could I expect? When you hear yourself saying something like that along the line of those red flags, that's an indicator that you're really close to a self-limiting belief. The first thing that popped into my mind when I was looking at all of this stuff is, how when you're at the grocery store and you get in the wrong line, and then I think, oh, this always happens to me. I always choose the wrong line. That's a self-limiting belief because it's not true, but it feels like it. So ask yourself what assumptions that you are making or what truth about yourself or the world these statements create, these thoughts. What is it making you think when you look at that. We're just kind of, trying to figure out where we are. So, check yourself, think about any red flags that may show up, and then kind of work backward from there. What is that self limiting belief that you're hearing? I'm going to put on a little bit of music while you start tackling this first prompt, this first part of our prompt, and share in the chat if things are coming up for you, because you might like spark something in someone else's brains. If it, right, we're not alone. We, again, it's self-limiting. Everybody has them, but we have power over them. So that's why we're doing this exercise. So yeah, share in the chat as we work through these. Oh my goodness, I am so inspired by the truth that's in the chat. You guys were very open and honest, and there's just some beautiful, beautiful things that you've got that self-limiting belief, and it you can see when you put power to it and you write it and you start dissecting, you see how gosh, like why am I worrying about I'm too old? No, we're not too old, but society says that, and then you kind of start going in circles, or I just suck. Jordan shared that's one of hers. and it pops in your head frequently. You got to tell it to be quiet, right? I'm not allowed to take up space. I can't go have fun and do hobbies until all the other things are done. I have to reward. Um, I'm thinking of rest. You shouldn't rest. That's for the weak. Oh, you guys have just shared. Nothing will ever change. Um, yeah, pain levels make it tough to do stuff. I don't ever have the time or energy, or I can't get anything done, even though you're doing so much. Um, you guys, thank you so much for sharing. I always think about I have a scarcity mindset. That's always playing out in my head. I'm not worth that, like money wise. I'm not worth that. And it's something I've had to learn how to tap down. So um as you're working through not keep sharing, I really appreciate it. It just I feel I love how this community comes together when we're digging into this kind of stuff. So we've looked at that. Now let's stop. Some of you've already kind of started this because it popped in your head and you're working on it, but we're going to explore its origin. And that next question asks of us, where do you think this belief came from? Is it based on fact or experiences? And so I want to share just a couple of slides before we dig into this because I had mentioned a couple of reference materials that I pulled up when I was looking at these self-limiting beliefs. And I've got some information that I thought might help you frame out some of this, the origin story of this. False and self-limiting beliefs often take root in early childhood. As we know, we're all recovering from childhood by the messages we receive from the people that are close to us in our lives, our caregivers, peers, environment, school, teachers, mentors, those folks. So there's two different ways of kind of looking at that. And it's through one is schemas and one is cognitive distortions. And I think it's important to understand the psychology of that to help us kind of examine where we are tonight. So, schemas are those stable and enduring themes. I apologize for reading, but I'm not a licensed anything, so I want to make sure I speak to the data that's there. They develop during childhood or adolescence and are elaborated throughout one's lifetime. They are profound, persistent ways of thinking and feeling about the world and ourselves, and they're called life patterns. According to schema therapists, when basic emotional needs like acceptance, safety, love are not regularly satisfied during childhood or adolescence, those very formative years when our brain is so malleable, the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. Then these maladaptive schemas begin to emerge and they kind of develop into these shortcuts that influence how we perceive novel situations. All righty. So you can kind of go, I was sharing with you that scarcity is a big mindset that I'm not worth XYZ. And it does go back. There was a schema about your dad doesn't pay child support, you're not worth it, your stepfather's not your father, you're not worth it, you're not valuable. And that was like that thing that I heard over and over and over again. So money is funny for me. It's a weird thing. If we go to cognitive, uh, uh, okay, now I've lost my word. Cognitive behavioral theory, the perspective on self-limiting beliefs focuses on how such beliefs lead to just these automatic thoughts and actions in day-to-day living. So a little subtle shift from the idea of schemas. Broad universal statements like the ones we just kind of looked at, such as I'm capable or I'm unworthy, are example of those core beliefs. And although these beliefs frequently exist outside of our awareness, they influence the assumptions we make in particular circumstances. So sometimes, this something comes up, and it came up as a young worker when you first began your career, or a student, or you became a parent, or you became a spouse, and maybe there's something there that was there. So, no, and it doesn't all have to be trauma based. You're correct. You are so correct. But as we're looking at the self-limiting, we want to maybe find out what's the origin story with that? Was there a situation at school that made you think XYZ? So, I'll go back through these three slides while you're kind of bumping this around on the page, and share as you're comfortable again in the chat, what is coming up for you. Bridget made a great call out in the chat. I know y'all were writing, but she says, be careful about placing blame, both on others and yourself. We need to have grace as we grow and let life experiences affect us. Indeed, there are traumas that need to be recognized. But I think that's a great call out because, a lot of stuff, it just is. And I know, people do the best they can. So it's just, I thought that was a great call out that, she dropped there in the chat to remind us, things are just as they are. And it's then what we learn from that and how we reframe that belief, which was the whole gist of this journaling exercise. But now comes the good part because our next step is we're going to challenge that belief. And it's time to start looking for the evidence that this belief is not true. So think about listing the reasons that it's not true or might not be true, and gather your evidences from other previous experiences. There were people in my life. I had a teacher in high school who made me feel very worthy, which was an opposite feeling that I was getting, in my home life. And so, wow, she saw something in me. So that was that first little bit of evidence that, oh, I am worthy. I am worth something. And so just you kind of start going backward now and finding those good things to disprove that self-limiting belief. And it says the prompt is it might be true. It doesn't have to be 100% convinced. Just look for the possible reasons why you can counter that limiting belief and write to that. And I can't wait to see what you share there. It is okay if you're not digging into these pages tonight and you're just kind of sitting there and listening and reading the chat and being with your Sonder family. Again, there's not an expiration date on this, so glean all the information. I sit here in such admiration of all of you who have felt comfortable to share with everybody. Amanda, I have eyes. um, but those of you who have felt comfortable enough to share, your stories are so powerful. And again, I sit with a lot of admiration to know you, and just to be in the presence of each other tonight is pretty crazy, wonderful. So. Now you've got this evidence as you've sought through. We're working our way through all the way down to reframing that belief. We're going to rewrite that belief that is in space one into something empowering and supportive now. What might your new belief be? Doesn't have to be an over the top thing. Um, it just needs to be something that better defines how you look at that belief and how you'll move forward from now on as you leave that self-limiting belief behind. So share in the chat what comes up for you and how you've countered that first, how you're countering that first space that we worked on tonight. Whew, good work, everybody. Take a deep breath. Sit back for a second. Let your shoulders roll. You've done a pretty good journey through that limiting belief all the way to the reframing and claiming what you want for your life. What's beautiful is you now also have this tool that you can go back to for any other types of limiting beliefs that may pop up along the way. You'll know how to sit down and write it down, figure out where it's coming from, and lead yourself all the way to reframing that so that you can reclaim your power over that belief. So, oh, super work, my friends. Um, we're gonna now just take a break and go flip over to page 19, which is your belief jar. Now I want to do a call out because earlier in the month, Meha did a daily ritual, and it's a very short one. It's one of the shorter ones this month, and I am a little behind in my daily rituals. We were traveling, but I did get this one. Um, as you can see, it says marked as completed, but during her talk about our jar was this idea of self-efficacy, which is basically your belief in your ability to succeed in, a tough situation, an easy situation, just that self-belief that you have, self-efficacy. And she talks a little bit about its origin, but the question she asks of us that day for the daily ritual is just think about one thing that you've done in the past 24 hours that reflects belief in yourself and write that down. And doing a practice like that, it's very similar to our gratitude practice, and actually it probably kind of overlaps that gratitude practice. But the reason there's so much power in writing that down is that the time you're taking to notice and put pen to paper, give it power, you start building all these small acts of belief, and then that feeds your confidence in yourself. And that's why this is that type of exercise for us to do. Now, if you've already been kind of looking, yeah, oh, Radhika got it. I'm so happy for the hard times in life, for sure. Because it leads you to other things. I love that. That's why we do that rosebud thorn reflection. Good call out, Radhika. Um, so here are a couple examples I got from Sonder Club that folks had already posted. This one just kind of cracked me up. I don't know. It's some kind of Bailey and I were, is it Simpson or anyway, in this love fest already. And then the belief jar over there on the right has some quotes and some thoughts. And so if you've been working on, so let me back up. So you can start thinking about the things like we were just talking about, that one thing you've done in the past 24 hours, then go back maybe another day. What was something else? And think backward to what you've done that reflected belief in yourself, and you can start working on your jar. But I said an extension activity. If you have been doing this month and you've dropped some things in, the idea of a jar in the kitchen. Think about those things that are there in your jar is kind of the ingredients of your life, and then write a recipe about yourself using the beliefs as the ingredients, and use your experiences in the directions. And I've got a couple of fun little examples here. You can see the recipe for Sarah, and she's got, stir together empathy, courage, loyalty, sift in the common sense, pour in a couple tablespoons of silly. So just some inspiration for that. You could take that jar of ingredients and create a recipe. And I know we're getting really close on time, so I'll stop talking, put on a little bit of music, and I'll go through these slides. Remember, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to grab this too if you want. Yeah, an old-fashioned recipe. I love it. And here's some words for measurements and some fun cooking verbs. There's a lot of stuff in my life that's been mashed up and crushed up, and even some simmering happened. So I will put on just a spot of music, go through these slides once again, and you can grab a screenshot if you want, or just plan to catch this on the flip side in the recording. But I think it'd be a fun way to use the ingredients you've collected in your belief jar. We spent a lot of time on that limiting belief and getting it to a really good place in our life now where we took control of that. And so I hope that you'll spend a little time with that jar and create a recipe that's uniquely you, to just kind of make that a fun activity about the beliefs. Yeah, and this seemed like it was a very fast hour, but I am so proud of you. If you want to go a little deeper into what this idea of those self-limiting beliefs and those saboteurs that we often talk about in Silk and Sonder, you can scan the QR code you see here, and it will take you to the saboteur quiz via the positive intelligence page. If you are on Silk and Sonder coaching, or we've actually used this at a couple of other socials, you may already know about this and you know what your saboteurs are, or you may want to see if you've done some work and your saboteurs have changed a little bit. And then Bailey's also going to share the article links to where I got that information about, of what we do with those beliefs and where they came from and all that good stuff. So I hope that you'll find that informative. I'm really proud of the work that we all did tonight and the way that you all showed up to support one another. I'm sorry for keeping you after class a little bit. Y'all are amazing. And we're getting ready to close this theme out, and we'll be welcoming in change, which I think is a lovely segue. Y'all have a great evening, and thank you for joining myself and Bailey as we journey through this final journal